It was just another cold December evening in the heart of Chicago. The city glowed in holiday lights and festive cheer, but none of that warmth reached the old rusted buildings on the south side, where 12-year-old Alina lived with her grandmother. Their tiny apartment was dimly lit by a flickering bulb, and the cold wind crept in through cracks in the window panes. Her grandmother, once a schoolteacher with pride in her voice, now lay coughing on a thin mattress, her body fragile from age and untreated illness. Alina, small and delicate for her age, had learned too soon the weight of responsibility. She did chores in the neighborhood, cleaned shop floors, and even sold handmade bracelets just to earn a few dollars a week. That evening, Alina had just finished helping an old vendor close his fruit stall. Her hands were numb, and her stomach growled with hunger, but she smiled when he handed her 2 overripe bananas. It was more than she'd expected. She tucked them in her coat and began walking the familiar alley shortcut home, whispering prayers under her breath for her grandmother's medicine, which she couldn't afford. But then she heard it, barely a groan. A sound like a wounded animal or maybe, a person. She stopped. The alley was nearly dark, just one broken street lamp flickering at the far end. Fear tugged at her feet, but something stronger pulled her forward, humanity. As she moved closer, she saw him, a man slumped against a wall, his face pale, his suit stained with blood and dirt. "Sir," she whispered, trembling. "Are you okay?" No response. She dropped her plastic bag and rushed to his side. His pulse was faint. He was cold. Panic surged through her, but she forced herself to stay calm. She didn't know who he was or how he got here. All she saw was a human life slipping away. She dialed 911 on her old prepaid phone, the kind that still needed minutes to function. By God's grace, she had 2 left. She explained the situation as clearly as she could. Then she sat beside him, holding his hand, whispering, "Don't go to sleep, okay? Help is coming." He opened his eyes briefly, and she saw them, green, tired, but filled with something familiar, fear. "Why, did you help me?" he murmured. She blinked, confused. "Because, you needed help." And that was all she said. Thomas Harrington, a name that once ruled the world of business. Private jets, seaside mansions, million-dollar deals before lunch, that was his life. But behind all the glamour was a truth he kept hidden from the world. Inside, he was completely shattered. 10 years ago, his only daughter, Ella, died in a tragic accident. She was just 2 years old. That day, Thomas had been tied up in an important business meeting. His wife had taken Ella out alone when a drug driver slammed into their car. His wife survived, but Ella didn't. And from that moment on, Thomas became a dead man walking. His marriage crumbled, family drifted away, and he became a prisoner in a golden palace of loneliness. The wealth kept growing, but his heart remained empty. For years, he tried to numb the pain with alcohol, medication, and work. But something inside him finally broke that night. He had attended a fundraising gala, a pretentious event where people weep for humanity in front of cameras, but forget compassion the moment the lights go off. Leaving the venue, disoriented, drunk, and hollow, Thomas decided to drive himself. His driver had the night off. Halfway through the south side, one of his tires blew out. He stepped out of the car, and that's when it happened. A mugger, maybe someone who recognized him, attacked. He was beaten, his wallet and phone stolen, and left bleeding in a dark, abandoned alley. No one came. Until she did. Alina. The little girl who would change everything. 3 days later. Alina sat in the hospital hallway, waiting. She hadn't expected to be invited. But she'd come anyway. The nurses had called her the little hero. One of them had even given her a sandwich and a warm coat. The man she saved was no ordinary person. He was Thomas Harrington, billionaire investor, CEO of Harrington Global Enterprises, a man whose name appeared in newspapers and stock markets daily. And yet, not a single soul had come looking for him that night. No friend. No family. Just Alina. When the doctors said he was stable and wanted to speak to her, she hesitated. What would she even say? What could she offer someone who had everything? But as she stepped into his private room, she froze. The man lying in that hospital bed didn't look powerful or proud. He looked broken. His eyes lit up when he saw her. Weakly, he motioned for her to come closer. She did. Why? He asked again, his voice raspy. Why would a girl like you help a man like me? She swallowed hard. Because my grandma says every life matters. And if someone's hurt, you help. That's what being human means. A tear escaped the corner of his eye. No one's ever said that to me. Not in years. He paused. Then whispered something that made Alina's world stop. I had a daughter. She would have been your age today. Her lips parted. She didn't know what to say. He continued, barely audible. She died, 10 years ago. And I buried my heart with her. All the money, the empires, the homes, it didn't mean a damn thing. I let my soul rot in gold. But last night, when you touched my hand, I thought I saw her. Alina's eyes filled with tears. She took his hand gently, like she had in the alley. You're still here, she whispered. You have time to fix things. And then he broke down. Not as a billionaire. Not as a CEO. But as a father who had lived too long in silence and guilt. In the days that followed, something extraordinary happened. Thomas Harrington recovered, slowly but surely. And every day, Alina visited him, telling him stories, bringing him her grandmother's soup, sometimes even making him laugh. And when he was well enough, he asked to visit her home. He insisted on walking through the broken hallways, sitting beside her grandmother's bed, and seeing the world Alina came from. There was no pity in his eyes. Only awe. He sat beside her grandmother and whispered, Your granddaughter saved my life. But more than that, she reminded me how to live. He turned to Alina, and with trembling fingers handed her a sealed envelope. Inside were 2 documents. 1, a full scholarship to the finest private school in Chicago, tuition, supplies, even transport. 2, a deed. To a new home. Warm, safe, near the hospital her grandmother now received full treatment from. Alina couldn't speak. Her hands shook. But, why? She asked. He smiled. Because in a world that's forgotten what kindness looks like, you reminded me. You saved me, and now it's my turn. 6 months later, on a sunny spring morning, Alina stood before a crowd in a grand hall, nervously holding a microphone. She was the guest of honor at a charity gala held by the Harrington Foundation, created in her name. The banner behind her read, The Alina Grace Project, Reviving Humanity One Act at a Time. She looked at the audience, doctors, CEOs, teachers, janitors, and children from shelters, and said, I'm not here because I'm special. I'm here because someone gave me a chance. Not because I'm rich or powerful, but because I believe that even if you have nothing, you can still give kindness. And sometimes, that's all someone needs. Thomas stood at the back, eyes wet, hands trembling with pride. She finished, My grandmother used to say, you never know when your smallest action can be someone's biggest miracle. That night in the alley, I just held a stranger's hand. And that moment changed both our lives forever. Alina grew up to become a doctor. But more than that, she became a symbol of how love, compassion, and courage can ripple through even the darkest corners of life. Mr. Harrington never stopped calling her his second chance. Together, they opened clinics in underserved areas, built schools, and provided meals. But every year, on that same cold December evening, they returned to the alley. Not to remember pain, but to light a candle. For the daughter he lost. For the girl who saved him. And for the truth they both found in each other. That no act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever lost.